In the pause between the ringings, the next game, it looks like a really awesome game. And play. Okay, let me. Creators commissioned for the Video Games Design Play Disrupt exhibition at VNA. What? Let me start the 28 minutes, and let's play in the pause between the ringing. X on the keyboard to choose controls and continue. Say move, mouse look, E interact. Okay, press any key to continue. This work is adapted from an unpublished story by Mir Umar Hassan, written by the Gujarati poet in 1958 for the editor of the Moa Chronicle, is reproduced here with permission from the Society for Preservation of Obscure Fictions. To be complete is to be enclosed, to find yourself contained within the margins of your own body and the boundaries of collective reason. To be complete is to be able to see an edge to history. Begin. In the pause between the ringing, music by Salal Bayani, Studio Olamingus. Phone's ringing, guys. Let me turn that down a little bit. Do I have to answer the phone? Oh, E to interact. What happens now? Hello. Hello. Hi. It just says hello. Oh, hello. Namaskar Sahib. An electric burst crackles in response and then pauses. I wish to speak to a ghost. Why do you want to speak to a ghost? Sometimes, says the voice after a moment of thought, a ghost is the first historian of time. Sometimes hers is the only recollection, and I'm a connoisseur of such residue, for I'm Sutradhar, a narrator, holder of the threads and the giver of meaning. So tell me, is there a ghost that I can speak to? Yes, there is. I am a ghost. Oh, Sutradhar, long have I waited your arrival. Time is silted around me, enfolding me in a history where I do not belong. Complete the story, narrate an end to this endless waiting. Complete your story, asked the voice. Whatever do you mean? I cannot bear to persist anymore. I am confused. I cannot bear to persist anymore. I've waited an eternity for this liberation. Send me back to the furrows of memory, where I can be forgotten. Is that not why you have called over the telephone, asking to speak to a ghost? Oh, no, no, laments the voice. I seek a ghost, Sahib, yes. But I know nothing about your particular predicament. I seek a ghost to help me remember. Remember? Remember what? My stories, tales of mortal viceroys and indolent pashas, of crocodile possessions and the marriage of mountains. Stories from across the border where I no longer belong. Stories that were taken from me, some lost and others forgotten. Forgotten? Lost. What manners of Sutradhar are you? Curse you and your tribe of insouciant tyrants, purveyors of deceit and polluters of time. But Sahib, I, says the voice and stops, as if hesitant to commit to a course that would entangle its search with mine own. Curse you! I am shouting now, fearful of losing this one chance to escape. Each grain of time that I must abide scowls my soul. Let me loose from this entanglement of my tale, or I shall drag you to this netherworld of a town to await eternity alongside me. Patience, Sahib, sabra karal, says the Sutradhar, its voice quavering. Whether with distance or with strain of our conversation, I cannot tell. You mentioned a town, Sahib. Tell me more about this town. Perhaps I remember some of your story where you were to describe to me where you are. What can I say of the town? It has narrow lanes and tall buildings. Oh. I can't go this way. This is a very weird looking town. I like it. You open that door. Can I go up these stairs? No, I can't. It's a very linear game, it seems. Can I interact with anything? Mouse sensitivity is weird. Okay, so I can just go through any door. What the fuck is this? This is some trippy ass shit. That's just like a mattress? This game is fucking with my head, man. What's up here? It seems like it's just a red wall. Maybe if I go up? No, it's just a red wall. Can I answer this phone? Okay, so this just takes me back here. I haunt this town, yes. I wander through its clinics and offices, halls and passages. Empty boarding houses and the kakanas have been home to me. I linger in the small corner where they kept the shrine, and I wait beside doorways that are shuttered, but most of all, I haunt this room. A room? Ah, all stories ferment in rooms. Tell me about this room that you haunt. Describe it to me. I can see the sky where the roof has fallen. It is a cavernous room covered by a broken roof. So the goal is to look for telephones, I assume. I can't interact with anything except doors and telephones, it would appear. This is really weird. Oh wait, this is where the first phone was. This is where we started. Is there another door downstairs? No, I don't think there was. Can I? I can't interact with the bigger phone, only the small phone. I see it now, I can see it, Sahib. Clear as day, the voice reverberates with the panic of a sudden realization. I know the place you speak of. Why does the records room a telephone Nagar? It could be no other, of that I am certain. This game was set up as a display in a museum and is meant to tell some stories and let people experience information in a strange new way. Blessed be Allah's memory, you remember my story. Telephone Nagar, what manner of place is that? Where in the name of one true God is Telephone Nagar? Oh, those are options. I know the place, Sahib. I know where you reside, but alas, to what story you belong I cannot say. Telephone Nagar was built at the fulcrum of time and on the edge of a frontier, so many histories converged here, that one tale can no longer be discerned from one another. But you have been to Telephone Nagar, I insist. You have to know something of my predicament. Ghosts rarely remain unremarked. A forgettable detail, a chance encounter. Tell me the most poignant tale from Telephone Nagar. Alright, Sahib, since you insist, I will tell you the story of Iqbal and the death of Telephone Nagar. I lean into the receiver.
Our story begins on Wednesday, the 28th of August 1833, when slavery was abolished everywhere, except in territories ruled by the East India Company. It was then that an Irish doctor, named William Brooke O'Shaughnessy, decided that the world was porous and riddled with invisible arteries that only he could see. Even as slave owners were being paid compensation, as if freedom was an infringement that had to be reparated, William sat in a garret overlooking the Hooghly River and pondered the arterial conduits of trade and commerce that had washed him like an errant corpuscle upon the shores of this enslaved country.
That was weird. So William O'Shaughnessy joined the company.
Yes, and propelled by such sanguine vision, he percolated into Hindustan, soaking through barriers of Bengal and Orissa as an assistant surgeon, seeping into Bihar as an opium merchant, diffusing across the Malwa landscape in search of ore for the mint, and permeating into history with his telegraph wires. From pharmacology to the galvanic cell, William used every science known to man to piece together a country that baffled him and threatened to close its paws against his probing investigation.
But what has a pharmacologist to do with Telephone Nagar and my plight?
Yes, I am getting to that. 10 years into this project, William O'Shaughnessy found himself in the desert of Toke, along with a grand caravan of miners and salt merchants, looking for veins of copper. No settlements punctuated this land except the strange scaffolds built by nomadic barbers who eked a miserable existence here. The desert, which began north of Muzaffarpur, infringed into the territories of Sindh with an unnerving abandon. No delineations marked this border, and in a country that was slowly being distributed into small containers, this was indeed a strange place.
I've been to the desert of Tok. It is a searing wasteland. It's a weird V-Sync issue. Is it intentional? I can't tell. Okay, this is the phone I have to answer.
But O'Shaughnessy, to whom the world was porous regardless of where he might be, could see naught but fissures and crevices in this land, holes in the earth that leaked its minerals like open wounds. And here amidst meager deposits of salt and copper he discovered a deep fissure full of bakelite. So verdant was the find that within a few feet of digging into the crust, the small nodules of bakelite gave way to crystalline obelisks and protrusions of diodes and receivers. Within 20 feet, deposits of complete telephones started to emerge from the ground.
I am so confused. I don't understand what's going on. Maybe I'm dumb, but I have no idea what's going on. Now, this is in the pause between the ringing, but apparently it was created for museum display. I am very confused.
Indeed, rich were the mines, but this verdant find was located in that part of Toke which was deep within the independent territory of Sindh. Though this might not have been evident to O'Shaughnessy at the time of discovery, it was certainly clear to the head assayer who had procured a remarkable map for this expedition. I cannot tell you what this realization led to, but suffice to say that the head assayer was a distant cousin of Charles Napier, who called his illegal annexation of Sindh that very year
a noble piece of rascality.
How do you punish a man if he steals an entire country?
With possession of the mines now secure, William O'Shaughnessy embarked upon the greatest mining endeavor of 19th century India. Teams of workers were conscripted and local barbers coerced to dig the first exploratory shafts. Teakwood trunks from the vast Thar forests were dragged like a giant caterpillar to be hewn into shacks and offices and to shore the mud and rock of the tunnels being dug. Geologists, cavalrymen and medical practitioners, telegraph operators, wiremen, electricians, bankers, hostelers and camp cooks, entertainers and crooks all descended upon the site as the first tunnels were inaugurated.
It was adapted from an Indian tale. Yeah, it was. It is a very strange story. Maybe it's just supposed to be weird. I don't know. I'm not enjoying this game. I really expected to love it, but I'm really not enjoying it. It is adapted from a book. I would much rather read the book. This game is a really cool concept, but I am not enjoying this game. I am not enjoying Reading Simulator. What year was this?
Of what use are exact dates and years? Does it not suffice to say that the mines, which were as yet shallow, only about 30 feet deep, had already begun to yield great numbers of telephones, some small and delicate, and some as large as an elephant.
I think the game on Steam is a mistake, but I think in the museum it would be good. It probably makes sense in a museum. Yes, I've seen just grand specimens in the town.
Observation decks and elevator shafts were built. Great rotating wheels were erected to pump air into the mines. For one whole week, a train of camels unloaded brass lamps from the ore that was stored in a newly built warehouse. Clothing karkhanas were set up that worked tar soaked jute into hard shoes for the miners and made cotton scarves for the supervising Europeans. Elephants were shipped to the inhospitable desert at great cost to help pull and tug the telephones from their tonic bed.
And what of the people themselves? D-pad, mouse click, and drag to scroll down.
The well mining crews from Srinagar and Burma, from Ceylon and Hampi and Kadirmuga, started to descend upon the settlement, and were readily hired. Abutting their mine shafts, there erupted countless hovels of worker colonies, or what were to be later called Khanparas, and a little removed from the mines, there arose larger buildings for quarters and offices, churches and workshops, each a thin-walled ramshackle structure that hooked into the sky, until from the nothingness of the desert there emerged a misshapen town.
Misshapen town indeed. So this is the town. I've been here already. There's the telephone that I was on earlier. I'm gonna not go straight to that telephone and see if there's something else to discover here. So I guess I just use the telephone again? It's all very repetitive so far.
William O'Shaughnessy, who was appointed Director General of Telegraph for his discovery of the Bakelite pits, received a knighthood in 1866 for the telephone mines. And though he left the town a little after its founding, he gave a name to the settlement, calling it Telephone. You
guys, that was, let me turn the reading off. I will read that myself in my own accent. Fateful name it has proven, and with newfound prosperity there appeared like a tide of locusts, hordes of officers and revenue clerks, managers and traders, accountants and munshis, members of that peculiar race who speak both Farangi and Hindustani, a race of administrative service officers, the lower magistrates, and adjunct collectors, Indians who had been trained abroad for just such tasks of collating the whims of change. Vultures, I spit in derision at the memory of these bubbles. Why can't I just scroll down? Why do I have to drag like this? This new and formless settlement attracted them. This absence of discrete boundaries. Where else could you live in such proximity to the British or the Dutch or the Americans who worked alongside them? Where else were you allowed to so clearly see what being an equal might be like? Not that they were equal, they were separate living quarters of course, separate messes and places of worship, and even separate streets, but to be so close to the foreigners was exhilarating. Foolish to be so enthralled. Perhaps they were foolish, but mark these men, for they are crucial to our tale. It was these men, these officers of the company, who on a borderless land discovered a finite margin. For it was against the nebulous assault of sand and mud and the uncertainties of the mining pits that they could delineate their own form and purpose. Somehow the harsh land erased other loyalties and helped keep the delicate balance of their lives in a careful accord with their rulers. To this strange milieu arrived Iqbal. Iqbal? Yes, Iqbal the barrister, Iqbal the revolutionary, Iqbal the unfortunate, or simply Iqbal. He came to this town riding a roving tide of humanity and attempting to efface the terrible years he had spent at Hertfordshire, before being appointed the administrator of the Ambrose Shaft, the deepest active mine at Telephone in Nagar. Save for his morning rounds, Iqbal rarely went to the actual mine. The rest of the day he spent in the cavernous records hall, maintaining a careful roster for the teams under his charge. It is the same hall that you haunt today, turning such records as have survived into paper planes in your boredom. So I made the records in here into paper planes because I'm a ghost and I'm bored. So I guess I just go up the stairs then. Little phone. Perhaps it was the emptiness of this hall when the rest of the town was crowded, but something gave Iqbal room to ponder. Why was the telephone mined in only a single language, he wondered. Each telephone once extracted was refined and processed such that it would only allow English to be spoken through its receiver. No other language would transmit. And this bothered Iqbal, who knew, as we all do, that telephones in India have long predated the British Raj. Why even Tughlaq was known to have shifted to Dalatabad to avail the magnificent, naturally exposed telephone that sat like a boulder upon its palace grounds. What if the phones at Badami, even the Chalukya, were known to use them? Well, our old telephones all but vanished when Mughal... I'm gonna just use that one. Multiple choice? Yeah, it is multiple choice. I don't see the purpose quite, though. Indeed, and in the presence of such history, Iqbal found it difficult to believe that some small change in the refinement or extraction process might not yield a modern bakelite telephone that could speak in many languages, perhaps even all of them. Such radical thoughts he kept to himself, and when time permitted he experimented, for this was the legacy of O'Shaughnessy, and he found it easy to bend wires and tubes to his will, and much as O'Shaughnessy had done, he too began to think of the world as a porous body waiting to be punctured by cables and pipes carrying blood and sound. Reticent though he was, word of Iqbal's experiments percolated through the town and roused a deep anxiety in his fellow officers. Those who had prided themselves on their certainty saw in Iqbal's endeavour a malevolent threat to their way of life, for their certainties were born on a particular kind of fear. The telephone was a sacred emblem to their station as the chosen ones. They feared its proliferation and they feared its authority. To so debase such an august instrument was tantamount to sacrilege, of which this they were certain. And violence comes easy to men who are certain. Yes, it does. In a telephone nagar, the violence erupted, when Iqbal proclaimed that he had perfected the first Urdu telephone, and that he awaited a phone call to test its efficacy. It was this proclamation that killed Iqbal. They pushed him into a shaft that he supervised, and he fell 1,203 feet into a hole called Ambrose, until every bone was crushed like tinder and his flesh so deeply lacerated that it left a streak of blood marking the passage of his body down the shaft. Allah have mercy. This is fucking with my head, man. My head is tired and fucked with. The next day, with forced joviality, lest the horror of their crime be made apparent, the murderers and their masters filed into the records room with a new camaraderie. As they reached for their muster sheets, they were startled to discover Iqbal seated upon his usual duree, waiting beside his telephone. His face was still lacerated and his mien was the colour of a white dhoti. His limbs contorted in odd shapes with bones protruding the flesh, and his teeth rattled as he spoke in garbled bursts. But there he was, Iqbal, or what was left of him. That's fucking weird. A ghost! The sight of Iqbal animated the memory of his murder. The records room was boarded up, though no one remarked upon the folly of entombing a ghost. People were prosecuted, the mines were abandoned, the shafts destroyed in a riot. The city dwindled, and then just as suddenly as it had begun, Telephone Nagar became an empty husk floating upon a sea of sand, leaving just the ghost of Iqbal awaiting his phone call. Do you believe I am Iqbal? I ask, wondering if I indeed am Iqbal. Jesus, I am terrible at reading. I do not know, Sahib. All I can recall is that Iqbal also awaited a phone call in the empty town of Telephone Nagar, that he too awaited release from this purgatory that was to be heralded by a ringing, to which he would say, "Hello." "Namaskar, Sahib." An electric burst crackles in response and then pauses. "I wish to speak to a ghost." Does the story just repeat itself? Well, let me play it again with different options. I am very, very confused. I think this game fulfills its purpose in a museum, but it being a game on your home PC is a bit I think it is good to have a way to know of it, and Steam is a large platform that can reach a lot of people, but I think it mostly should be kept to its original purpose. I entirely agree, Figgy. It's a really cool game, but I wouldn't recommend people to play it. That was In the Pause Between the Ringing. Very, very weird game. So, in the pause between the ringing, it is time for the review. Mechanics, I give a 6 out of 10. They're not bad. They're better than okay. They work. 6 out of 10. It's like better than a 5 out of 10, but not really worth anything. Much higher than that's a 6 out of 10. Graphics get a solid 9 out of 10. That game was stunning. Wow, it was beautiful. It would be a 10 out of 10, except there was not really that much to see. It was just the same. It was just 3 rooms. The sound gets a 4 out of 10. It was okay. It was there. It had the same flaw as home sound. It was just there. It's all there was to it was the sound was there. General impressions, I said uncertain, read on, because that was following with the rest of my review, in which I said, In the Pause Between the Ringing is a game which may fill you with awe if you can tell what the hell is going on. It was designed for a museum to retell an unpublished novel, which it does a very good job of in a museum situation, I would believe. However, it is very linear despite providing choices and will leave your head spinning. Graphically, it is stunning, and the story is intriguing, even if a little confusing. I only wish that it had an end. That is my review of In the Pause Between the Ringing. That's all I can really say about it. It really, if I went into a museum and I saw this, I'd be like, oh my god, this is amazing. As a game on Steam, I'm very uncertain and I have mixed feelings of it. Not overwhelmingly positive though. I don't like not being able to finish a story, which I can't. I can't finish the story, and it fucked with my head. I don't know what the fuck was going on there. I don't know what general impressions to give it. If you want to know what it's like, play it. That said, I don't know if I would recommend it. That was In the Pause Between the Ringing.